What's up, everybody? 𝕨𝕚𝕥𝕙 here, and
I'm 𝕨𝕚𝕟𝕬𝕟.
and this is Front Porch Chronicles. What? We're into the
Number 11.
number
We're back.
11. 2 weeks into 2024.
It's been flying by, dude.
I know, right?
I thought
Look.
January was supposed to be slow, and we're just getting back in the swing of things, and who knows it? We're already in week 3.
Bro, it's escalated quickly. We got that new listing in Placentia. Got 2 more fixing to pop off. UFC, big time last week. We'll go into that in a little bit.
Yeah, I'm excited for today.
Yeah, so I'm pretty stoked. We got a big time guest today that'll be patching in with us in a little while. You know, he's superstar now, so
Right.
You
Just out
know,
of nowhere, too. No
know.
one knew who he was like 2 weeks ago, and then now he's already saying as the UFC biggest upset.
look, we've been calling it for weeks.
Right.
All right, you know, I've been calling for weeks because I already knew what was up. He trains with a bunch of dogs, so you know.
Speaking of underdogs, you've been living that lifestyle out the womb, it feels like.
Yeah.
Is it tough, like, having that, like, chip on your shoulder all the time? Or is it something you just kind of get used to?
You know, for a long time, I worried what other people thought. And it becomes so heavy on you to constantly worry and focus on yourself, and then worry and focus on what other people are thinking, saying, doing, or whatever else. So for me, I learned through my journey, I learned to stop caring and thinking what other people say or said. I mean, you're going to have doubters, you're going to have naysayers throughout your life, whether you do the right things, the wrong things, or anything in between. You're always going to have doubters and naysayers, yourself included. You're going to be a doubter and a naysayer of yourself. But it's more so learning to let go of doing and saying what you think other people want you to say and becoming at peace with that.
Which is hard in social media age. I mean, getting all those haters on the daily.
Well, you know, they hate on the, you know, we've been getting a lot of flack. I get a lot of flack. Look, why ain't nobody ever hating on you? See, I need the Rico Suave.
I don't know.
You got that young and
You're the
tender.
more handsome one, too.
Nah,
so I
boy,
don't know why.
get out of here. So look, we get the haters always want to say something about the mullet or the hair, which is super funny.
Maybe next show get a mullet so that we can stop.
Look,
harassing.
Philippe started his. My son said he wanted to have his hair like his dad, so we're going next level with that thing. So you know, let me ask you a question. What do you do when you have naysayers, doubters? How do you handle that?
The biggest thing is it gives me that little competitive edge. And so when people start talking, I just kind of let them a little bit. I let them do their thing, and then once I know, I'm kind of like a snake, you know, you kind of just coil up a little bit. You're like okay. And then I know when the right time is to dish it back too, because most people can't take it.
They can,
you know? I don't like to talk ish like that, because I know it's going to come back anyways. So I just let them do their thing. And then when it's my time, I'll let them know. And then I don't dish it back too much, but I'll let them know. I know.
You know, my petty level is at 1,000. You know, that's one of the things. I don't think, you know, I progress with a lot of things. I think my pettiness has gotten a little bit better because I've learned to kind of let some things go. But I think the dog in me is going to forever have some sort of pettiness. But I've learned to kind of dial it down and I'm not so good with being able to, like how you said, you can let people talk a little bit before. I guess for me, it's like this instantaneous, like, click thing. with certain things. So like I can let a little bit go, but like it comes a point, or if certain things are said that trigger, it instantly is like, oh, hold on, who are you talking to? That's not gonna go down like that, my friend. And so I commend you. You've always been the more sit back and kind of be able to dial it in, which I do. I just don't have that much cool when it comes to disrespect. I instantaneously fly off with that. I
mean, it's a Southern charm too. It seems like a lot of people, like, there's certain values that you don't cross, or certain lines you don't cross,
like the kids. Like my kids, like you could say whatever you want to about me. And honestly, it's funny because now I look back and like we were laughing because somebody had made a comment about the mullet and like, what is that hair? And I was like, you want to run your fingers through it. And you were laughing because you were like, dude, remember back in the day, like you would have been like, hey, I'll fight you in the streets and yada, yada, yada.
You've been red in the face.
Yeah. So like now I learned to take things, but there's certain things like my kids, like we were laughing on X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I had somebody come on there and they were like, oh, your kids. And bro, you don't cross the line with the kids. Like you could say whatever about me. I take it with a grain of salt. It is what it is. Luckily I was quickly able to track down his info and called him out on Twitter with his real name, not his spam name. And he quickly diverted from talking about my kids, and I just made sure that he knew that was not the.
Well, that's the thing too. Is like everyone just thinks they have unlimited, basically, lives on social media too. There's no repercussions because you can build so many different spam accounts. Like, how do you even stop something like that? When some people say like, "Oh, you should have your actual name," and see how many people want to say it to your face,
They won't. And,
Ever,
well,
right?
and the MMA fans are the absolute worst when it comes to that. Me and Hoffa like laugh all the time when he posts something on Twitter or whatever, and like people make the most outlandish comments. And I'm like, bro, you're 483 pounds, 5'5", and you're talking about, oh, you should have got up. Bro, you struggle to get up out of the bed. So to say somebody is struggling to get up off the mat in a fight is absurd to me. But yeah, man, it's crazy how unfiltered people get.
Well, even just fans in general. Like the Eagles just got destroyed yesterday, and everyone's like over Coach Sirianni's head. And we went to the Super Bowl last year. It's like, it doesn't make sense. I know we started off hot and we were ready to go, and the collapse is, that's one thing to talk about. As a team, something's wrong there, right? Whether it's coaching, the players, or all the above. How do you flip a switch like that?
You know what I think it is, though, and this, don't take offense, but it's a generational thing. And it's one of those things that we've become such an instant gratification society as a whole. And so when I say generational, I think things shifted. But people have this, I need to win right now. I need to have this right now. I need to do this right now. Like, there's no value to the major things like hard work, loyalty, dedication, all of those things that are core values that people should have. I mean, think about how many people do you see blow up on Twitter, X, social media sites as a whole? They blow up and then they fall off. You never hear from them, never hear about them again. And it's like instant gratification. They get it, but then once you have to sustain things, because you can only do these pranks where you go up to people in the grocery store before you get beat up. You can only go into so many different places and do so many things. And then when it comes time to adjust and say, hey, you know what? I had that gimmick of messing with people. Now for sustainability, I need to adjust, and people don't have that mindset. That's why they fall off. They can't, they don't have that sustainability of working hard to keep doing those things, which is unfortunately the world we've come in sports especially.
Well, things are just moving so quickly now too, like it feels like everyone wants to be a news outlet, everyone wants to be the big pop star, and then they like you said, you get there and you're like, oh shoot, this is what it really takes to maintain this level of status, whether it's just like getting a roster spot on our team,
which is it's unfortunately the society that we live in, and there's no loyalty. I mean, think about it from the standpoint of now football. I mean, kids are transferring high schools, bro. Like there's no, like used to, you took pride in where you went to school and you had loyalty and honor. And like, you were like, this is my school. I'm going to support it. I'm going to ride or die. I'm going to develop. I'm going to work hard and make this program where it needs to go. And now you don't have that. You have people that are like, how many likes or follows can I get if I switch teams? What can I get out of this financially? Which I understand the financial side of it, but also there's just no loyalty, which is insane to me. But, it is what it is.
Hopefully it'll shift soon because it feels like everything's just too quickly. I mean, even on like the national football scale too.
Well, I think COVID affected that.
How so?
I think COVID, because we were locked up, bro. Mm-hmm. Like people were so locked up for so long with COVID that when we got out of lockdown, people like lost their minds. You know what I mean? Like I think that's where it even came worse, is people were locked up. So it was almost like people were so overly like, I've got to have this now because I don't know when I'm going to get locked up with COVID again. You know what I mean? Which is, we still haven't had any answers on this whole, we ain't going to go down that rabbit hole, but we still haven't had any answers to this whole COVID. Where do you get it? How do you get it? What is it? Does the medicine work? Does it won't? But we ain't gonna go down that rabbit hole. But let me ask you this. When the world counts you out or people count you out, how does that feel? And what do you in your mind use as a motivation to say, hey, not so fast, my friend?
I mean, you mentioned it earlier about like, you might even doubt yourself a little bit. I think that's more applicable nowadays because, we might get one or two good comments, one or two bad ones, and they're really not in our world, but we feel like they are, right? And so then your world starts to creep inside of yourself, and that's where like most of the work is very difficult because you have to play with those emotions of like that imposter syndrome starts to creep up. You start wondering if you're deserving of this role that you play in this life. And then if you're younger and you've never really had any tough experiences, or if you're just getting your feet wet, you start asking yourself like, oh, how can I help the world be a better spot? And you expect to take on all this responsibility when you haven't even paid bills before. Like all this stuff where we have this high expectations, and it's very healthy to do that. You want to push yourself, push your goals. But if you start just taking on the world, how are you going to know what to do when you've never done anything like that before? I think that's something that I dealt with being very younger, and early on in my journey and like learning about who I am. So how I counterbalance that is I like to write because it simplifies things, Sometimes I'm 2 steps ahead of what I need to do, and then you just say it out loud or write it down. It's easier to chop it up into smaller steps and pieces than just taking on the whole project all at once. And that's the easiest way for me to do it, is just simplify the process, because we overcomplicate the simple things, and we complicate. It's just very frustrating when you just feel like you're always going in these loops and cycles.
Yeah. I know for me, it's different with life and fighting. I know when I compete or when I'm fighting, whether it be, I've only done 2 amateur MMA fights. I've done a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions, but it's one of those things that when people doubt you, I know the old school me, and it's funny because everybody has this perception of this dog that I am, and I am, but I also am a very emotional, very, wear my heart on my sleeve, as they say, and I am very emotional, which again, a lot of people don't know about me. They just think I have this mentality. And it does make a big difference. I know my first amateur MMA fight, I went into it and I didn't really have any expectations. I was just like, what's up? Let's do this. My second fight though, I had only been training, maybe a year at that point. And I was still a white belt, which is a beginner in jiu-jitsu. I had done some striking and stuff like that. The guy I was going against was like a purple belt, high level purple belt. He was a black belt in Taekwondo. He did the defensive techniques for the local police department. And I'll be honest with you, bro, I almost felt like I was defeated before I got in there. And I never really said that, but I did, because it was like this guy, and people were like, oh my God, like this guy's this and this guy's that. And in my head, I was like, okay, well, they don't know who I am. Like, I'm gonna have to show it. But that stuff does mess with your mind. That's why, I tell you a lot of times when you ask me about UFC fights and stuff, and I kind of tell you, like, the mindset, the muscles are great. The training is great. The unlimited cardio is spectacular. All of those things are great. But guess what? If you're not mentally strong, none of that other stuff matters. None. I've seen the biggest, strongest, toughest dudes crumble like a cookie. And I've seen the guys who you would think would not be mentally tough are mentally tough and look frail as whatever, and they are OG dogs just because they have that mentality. So again, going back, one of the things I had to learn to do is I don't take what other people think or say anymore. I take it with a grain of salt. I feel like other people's perception of me is just that. It's other people's perception. And one of the things that I had to learn is you're not going to please everyone. And for many, many, many years, I worried about what everybody else thought. I worried about wanting to please everyone else. So I lived my life that way, and you don't authentically know who you are living your life that way. And so one of the things that I had to do to find peace within myself is learn to let that stuff go. And so now, after the fact, when I trained and stuff like that, I didn't like even watch tape or watch anything of anybody. I just was like, hey, I'm going to go out there and do what I do. Win, lose, or draw, I'm satisfied with myself. And at the end of the day, I'm at peace, knowing I did the best that I could. And the best that you can is not going to be always good enough for everybody, regardless. You just have to find that peace within yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of time too, we, especially in a competition, it's really easy to get hung up on, especially if you've done your best, like, oh, it's just not good enough in this regard. And I mean, that might be a true statement. It might not be good enough, but that's where you get to learn, and you get to take those breadcrumbs that you learned from the competition and then apply it to the next thing. Yeah. And at the end of the day, again, knowing your best is not going to be good enough for everybody. But guess what? At the end of the day, when I'm laying on my deathbed or when I lay down at night,
I'm the only one that matters to myself. And so therefore, I live every day knowing that when I lay my head down, I give my best, and my best is good enough for me. And those that don't see that or appreciate or love me for giving my best, I let them go.
It's too much to hold on. It's too much to hold on to.
Oh, no, I mean, because it becomes a cancer, man. Like, I think back now to the old days of before I did anything, and I was such a people pleaser. And, man, it tainted, going through traumas and going through all of those things. Holding on to and trying to people please, it taints your life. I mean, it messed me up mentally. It held me back biblically with my faith, because I felt like if people, like, especially with church, forever, I didn't want to go to church because I felt like once people found out I had been sexually assaulted, once people found out that I had all of these things, that people were going to be judging, people were going to be talking. So it affected a lot of things. And again, once I learned to do my best and be at peace with my best, it allowed me to flourish mentally, emotionally, and it allowed me to have a better relationship with God and have a better faith-based system with that. So,
well, another point too is you touched on it, was a lot of times people don't know the full context of everything. Like, how are they going to? They don't know you at all, and even the small things that they do know about you.
It goes back to what we talked about instant gratification. People make snap judgments off of people all the time. And as they say, judge a book by its cover. People do it all the time, and they don't get to know the essence of people. And, that's sad, because there's probably a lot of good people out there that people don't take the time to get to know their story, that could be very motivational to them, but they put up those blogs.
Yeah, and it's too much. There's too many other people in the world that I've found where it's like, if I'm thinking about everyone else's stuff, how can you even do your best work? Like those two things,
you can't.
It can't even exist.
You can't. Well, that's what I'm saying. You can't focus on what other people are doing, because it just doesn't work.
Yeah. Plus, they don't even have the same suave as us. So what's
I mean, people are going to doubt regardless. I've won world championships. I've won Pan Ams. I've trained with some of the best guys, and still there's people like, oh, I'll beat that mullet fool, yada, yada, yada. And I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, I'm sorry you feel like that. But if you run up, you get done up. Just know
right.
that. Just know that if you run up, it's going to be a bad day for you. But, I mean, I let people be who they are. And
well, that's the thing, too, is everything's so entertainment now. Like with WWE, or even in like sports, everyone's celebrating after every small victory, which is cool. It gets the crowd amped, but then they do it in real life, and then they don't realize the repercussions of like, okay, that's great that you amped yourself up, but if you're doing to taunt someone,
with the disrespect,
the disrespect
that's
huge
the biggest.
now.
Well, that's the biggest thing, is the disrespect, and that's like what we talked about earlier. People have become so okay with being disrespectful to people's families, to their children, to people that die. Like, I mean, think about, like, you go on social media and there's people like that are on there joking about, and it's sad that our society has come to the point where people think that anything is on the table and anything without repercussions, because it really shouldn't be like that.
No, I mean, if we're all trying to actually support each other, then we should all be helping one another out. It doesn't make sense.
The world would be a much better place, but unfortunately, it is what it is, and that's why I keep my circle very small, just for that reason. Is because you can only have, my grandmother used to tell me, you can only have a handful of friends. And when you look at it and you think about it, think about how many true people you have in your circle that you know win, lose, draw, no matter what the cards hold, they're going to be there for you regardless. And it's a handful.
It's only a handful. I know.
There's a lot of people that are ifs. There's a lot of people that are maybes, but people that you know will actually be there, there's only a handful. So it's coming to peace with that and kind of knowing like, hey,
I got myself. I got my friends.
You know, I've got the people that love me and support me. And even then, sometimes people grow apart. As you evolve, this is something, you know, I try to share with you a lot of times. As you evolve, people will not be what you think or that you thought they were. And so you have to let go of those people and kind of, you know, flourish from there. So, you know, you live and you learn.
Well, I enjoy the guidance that you give all the time about that stuff because we came from not only other like separate parts of the country, but just the way we grew up too. Just,
definitely different sides of the tract, but God aligns people with people for certain reasons. And so, you know, you've been a blessing to me. I hope that I'm half as much as that to you. And speaking of naysayers and doubters
and having that underdog mentality, let's get ready. Who we got on today? We got the UFC fighter with the comeback of the year, the underdog mismatch, Nikolas Motta.
Yeah, look, and I want to give a disclaimer up front. We're going to have to give a disclaimer. We've been saying for weeks, Nikolas Motta will get the dub. I caught it. They were like, oh, the guy's fighting is 7-0 and he's only 14-5. I told you it is what it is. He will come out with the dub. So let's go ahead and welcome Nikolas Motta to the show. Nikolas, what's up, brother? How are you?
What's up? I'm good.
It's good to actually get to talk to you. I know when we aligned a few weeks back on Instagram, it was funny because we had a lot of people alike in common. And so I reached out to Johnny Eduardo. I said, Johnny, you know this guy? Johnny was like, yes. And he is a beast. So it was funny because we kind of aligned with him and kind of had a bunch of mutual friends. So we were cheering for you. We caught it a couple of weeks back. We'll hop right into it. I know you trained with Team 𝕨𝕚𝕟𝕟𝕚 and with 𝕨𝕚𝕟𝕟𝕚, who's produced guys like 𝕓𝕖𝕚𝕚𝕟𝕚, 𝕨𝕚𝕟𝕚𝕟, Claudia Gadelia, RDA trained there. Johnny Eduardo, Pahate, Matthias, which I know you know Matthias too for a long time. So it's a pleasure. I love all of those guys. It was a pleasure to have you on. So let me ask you, I'm just going to get down. I know you've heard this 50,000 times. What was it like going into this fight? I know a lot of people were like, oh, this guy's 7-0 and yada, yada, yada. It's going to be light work. I know me and you had, there was a guy that had come onto one of your posts and said something and I was arguing with him back and forth and you saw it on there. What did you think going into the fight, kind of them deeming you as an underdog? What was that like?
Yeah, I know I was a big underdog, and I know that this kid, he's really good. His fight on Dana White Contender Series just looked perfect. Was real fast and a sick knockout, and I knew that he was supposed to be a new star, and everyone was betting on him. But I had no other option but to do it. And the fact that he was talking that way about me, it was kind of disrespectful, and that gave me some good motivation to.
Yeah. So let me ask you this. You've been the guy on the other side of the underdog. Let me ask you this. Going into this as an underdog, and I know he was talking slick with some stuff. Did that factor into your training? Did that give you extra motivation? Did that kind of make you be like, okay, I'm gonna have to show this. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
show him what Brazil is about.
yeah. And sometimes when I was doing some like hard cardio or like some endurance training, we even have a one when we have a fight, we have this endurance training that is called Sicos Saturday.
Yeah.
So that we push like the maximum we can, like or endurance we go like high,
Yeah.
and all the times when was time to go to the next round, I would remember exactly his words that he posted on his social media. There was that I promise you guys that it's gonna be a highlight. He'll finish.
I mean, I love the shirt too. I'm the nicest asshole you ever met. I feel like it fits well with your
It's
thought process, having that like chip on your shoulder, you know? Would you play like videos of him like when he was talking while you were training too to like get that extra motivation?
no, but I had in my head. I had the words playing in my head.
It was like a video inside your head. Let me ask you this. Leading into the fight, did you see anything in the film? Did you see anything loopholes in his game that made you confident, or things that you saw that you were like, okay, I can really take advantage of this?
To be honest, in his last fight, no, I couldn't see nothing wrong. But his fights before back in Australia, I could see that he would be so aggressive that I because since I started since Nova União, I was one of the most aggressive guys. Like I had so many knockouts, and I was so good at being a brawler in the close distance. And I saw that that's how he used to be with a lot of guys in the past. He liked to bully guys and he liked to explode and put pressure and come forward. And I thought that that could be a good chance to get a knockout, because this game that he likes to do, I've been doing this game for so many years.
77%. Put When you say it, put some respect on it. You got a 77% knockout rate. So to say that you have, and again, this is something that Johnny had told me. Johnny was like, I said, what? I said, so how is this guy? Fighting style, like he said, he is a madman. And so I knew going into the fight, I knew that if he came at you with that type of style, it was gonna be a bad day for him. And so, like I said, we've been preaching for weeks, like what was gonna go down. We actually were gonna have you on the show last week, so I was glad actually it got pushed out a week, just so that we can make sure we highlight and make sure that people know to put some respect on your name. You know, a lot of people were saying a lot of slick stuff on Instagram and different social media outlets, but you know, he can go back to Australia with that, because you know, it don't go down like that in Brazil. So let me ask you this. So I know what he said and all of that played in your mind during fight camp. When you landed that shot, keep in mind, I just got my voice back because I was yelling so loud whenever you put hands on him. When you landed that shot and he crumbled like a cookie, what did that feel like? Did you know instantly, okay, let me pounce? What did you feel?
Oh, I thought I felt good. Felt good. You know something too, like the way that everything was building him up, himself, the way he was talking about himself, and the way that Australia and the UFC was building him up. They made seem like he was like a
Untouchable.
yeah, he was
Mm.
untouchable. Like, but in my head, I thought, okay, when I land my hand on his face, then he's gonna be, then he's gonna see
That you're
this.
the real deal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
And he
But
crumbled. The thing that I liked was when he crumbled, you didn't take the time to celebrate. Like you didn't take the time to let him kind of regroup. You pounced on him and you could tell it was kind of like you gonna put some respect. You could that was when everything was playing out through your head. You were like, oh, I'm gonna make him pay.
I can't say exactly that because I wasn't fighting with, I wasn't being emotional. I was
Yeah.
trying to be very like uh, how I say it, like rational.
Yeah.
Yes, because I knew how it is. Like Kono, he did beat some of the best, some of the greats
Yeah.
by playing this game. Like he did that to Aldo, he did that to Eddie Alvarez, and those guys are some of the greatest in history.
Yeah.
But they let the emotions get to them, and my coach Ray Seffel told me that too. Like, brother, you cannot get emotional, and I I didn't, but at the same time, probably in my subconscious, like inside, yeah, I was thinking about, oh, okay, motherfucker. And did
You
you
gonna have
see? And then did you see? It was crazy. Like my first reaction was because I've been living in America for a long time, and my best friends are Americans, and then I I got some of the woke mentality of some Americans. Some we're hanging out with wrestlers, and some guys they are like real Americans, and I really love this country and my friends here. And then I knocked him out. I was like, America, motherfucker.
Definitely been
Then
hitting
right
you.
after I said in Brazil because I don't want people from Brazil think that I forgot where I came from.
Yeah, speaking of coming from Brazil, I know you're from a we talked about this. You're from a small town in Brazil, kind of a little bit country. It reminded me of me whenever you told me about that, and I kind of looked it up. Being from a small town backwoods in Alabama, that's probably one of a million reasons why we align. So let me ask you a question. When you were a youngster in where you're from, did you always have in your mind, hey, I want to be a fighter? What
Yeah,
you always knew?
since I was a teenager when I started fighting, I started watching Pride FC, UFC, and I was so like in love with fighting, and I used to watch K1 too, and I won. I was like I would watch fights every day. Like my life became. I just want to train and fight. Like I love it fight so much, and then I knew that I want to be a professional fighter. My family wants me to go to college and stuff, but then when I I moved to Rio to be a pro and joined the Nova União.
Who,
Great team to join there and
right.
kind of come up. I mean, some straight up dogs there. So let me ask you, I know you moved over to the US. How long have you been in the US?
6 years.
And so, how was that transition from Rio to you're in Vegas, right?
At first, I was in New Jersey.
Yeah. How was the transition over?
Yeah, when you move to a different country by yourself, it's a little hard and different culture too, and you have to make new friends. It was very lonely in the beginning,
Yeah.
And Brazilians, I think I noticed that our culture is very like we always more like together and hanging out and family stick together and friends always together.
Yeah.
But the lucky thing was that I never have brothers and sisters. So since growing up back in the day, I was used to be by myself. So I think that helped a little bit. And I never was too much like a party guy. After
Yeah.
I found after I started training and fighting, I didn't care so much about like being part being party or other things like that. I just wanna train and train, eat, sleep, and study fights. And sometimes I would like go out too, but not much, because I want so bad to be one of the best fighters in the world.
You're well on your way, and I will say, speaking to you now in person and kind of hearing from you, if you didn't already have a major fan in me, you do now. Next level, just because of your focus. It's funny because a lot of people get a little bit of success and they get a couple of victories and they lose their mind and they go crazy and they think that they're untouchable. They think that they're invincible. And so to hear you speak the way that you speak and kind of knowing from the background of talking to other guys about you, knowing how motivated and dedicated you are, it's a breath of fresh air because I'm old school. There's a reason why me and RDA are such good friends. I'm a lot like him. I'm very old school I'm a very friendly guy, but I'm very dedicated to what it is that I'm doing. And I have zero room for disrespect and kind of, going all outside of the box. So have you gotten back to what's next for you? Are you going to take some time off? Are you getting? I already kind of know the answer to this. Are you going to take some time off? Are you going to kind of refocus and get back into the gym? What is next for you looking
So
like on that end?
so at first I want to start lifting, because before this fight I wasn't lifting. I was just doing a lot of live grappling and sparring. And this like Sunday I already text my strength and conditioning coach from the UFCPI, Gavin. He's Australian too.
Was he upset that you beat him?
Was he salty? You beat his fellow countryman.
Yeah, yeah. Then I was already asking him if I could train today, Monday, but he said no, because I asked him like if I could get back to train already, or like if it's important to take off a little bit. Then he say like they usually like they would say that at least 48 hours after you fight, it's good to take off. So I did that, and I enjoying this time to do interviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And but I want to get back. I want to get back right. I want to get right back to training. And my manager was explaining to me that we gotta use this momentum, because we can soon get another fight, and soon we can get a new contract. And and I just want to keep winning, and just build my life here. And like we talked about the other day,
Yeah, we are. What did I tell you? It's funny
one day
because
buying a house.
yeah, we're going to I said go get the W and then we're going to talk about buying you a house whenever you asked it. You came through, so now I'm going to come through. We'll get together on that later so that we could start looking at you some places and kind of go from there. So
Yeah, but let's go one moment at a time.
yeah.
Let's get you another dub.
Yeah, yeah. So let me ask you, how much I know you fight at 55. How much weight do you usually cut?
How much weight? So, um, like I walk around. They usually every fighter should walk around like around 20 pounds.
Yeah,
But like usually I would cut the night before weigh-ins and the morning of the weigh-ins. I
yeah,
I used to cut like 10 pounds or 11 pounds, but this time I did something different for the first time because usually when we start cutting weight Thursday night, because we do like dehydration,
Yeah.
we're not able to sleep. So we're not able to sleep. So this time I did something different. I didn't cut weight Thursday night, then I was able to sleep. And because I was able to sleep, I did lost like 1 or 2 pounds during the night,
Yeah.
and then in the morning, not in the morning, I woke up like 4:30 in the midnight, and because I was supposed to cut weight with my friend at 5 in the morning, and I woke him up, and I had like 8.5 pounds to cut, and we did it was 4 hours back and forth in the bathtub, and
Sweet.
hot bathtub and towels.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
not
that
easy. Like it wasn't like something crazy because I followed the protocol, everything perfectly. I had a lot of discipline for this camp. I was always on a diet, and I follow everything my nutrition guy from the UFCPI tells me to do it. But at the same time, it's very mental because imagine 4 hours straight.
it's funny. I always tell people I've only had two amateur. I had two amateur MMA fights, and I've done a lot of jiu-jitsu competitions. But it's funny because I tell people all the time the mental game for fighting is the difficult part, and the most tough mental part is the weight cut. It by far is the most brutal part of things. I know Hoff is fighting at 55, going back to 55 in March. So he kind of is like you. He's very dedicated with his diet and stuff. So it's not going to be that big of a problem. But cheers to you. You look good in the weigh-ins. You came out and stunted on them in the fight. So, like I said, my voice was gone. My kids were in there cheering. We were all yelling for you. I was like, oh, I was telling them about Johnny and Hoffa. I was like, oh, this is our friend. So they were super stoked. So let me ask you, last thing, do you have, speaking of getting back in, how soon are you trying to get back in and take another fight? Or are you wanting to be more strategic with it and kind of say, hey, I'm going to pick and choose my shots as far as who next, because you did have such a big fight and a big win?
I think I can get back at any time soon because I didn't had any injuries. I didn't hurt nothing in this fight. It was so fast. I almost didn't get hit. And
Yeah.
uh, I think in the past, I think I waste a little bit of time because I think mentally I wasn't so mature mentally like I am right now. Like sometimes I would get too heavy. Even the only thing I would do was train, eat, and sleep. Sometimes I would get into my head too much, or like maybe I didn't knew how to deal with stress,
It's a big
and I
one.
didn't knew how to have the right balance in my life because I was trying to be too so focused at fighting and forgetting about like also how it's good to also like I don't know have some balance in life too and
Well,
that,
it's like you feel like you're striving for perfection with
yes,
fighting.
yes, exactly,
And
exactly.
I could see where I've never met you in person per se, and this is our first real conversation, non
Wow.
texting. But I can tell already you feel like the weight of the world was on you because your family, being from a smaller town, you felt like you had to put on for your family. You felt like you had to put on for your city. You felt like you had to put on for everybody else. And I think if I'm hearing correctly and I can see in your face, I feel like you finally felt like you had to put on for yourself, and it made you at peace, and it makes things easier to be more balanced.
Yeah, I think I was too perfectionist, and now I understand that I just gotta be consistent. That's it.
and be at peace with yourself, which is the hardest thing to do, is being at peace.
I remember when I was doing a camp with RDA, he says something like, "Brother, never it's gonna be perfect." Never.
He is one of my best friends, and we talk about that quite often. And he was high on you coming into this fight, and he spoke very highly of you as well as Johnny. I'm probably flying out there in the next couple of weeks to be with them for Hoff's finalizing his fight camp and all of that. But, you know, we'll get together on the house because you came through with the dub. Whether you won or lost, we were going to do that anyway. But I just want to let you know how proud I am of you for staying consistent and getting outside of that perfectionism mind frame, and being and doing better, because that's a hard place to be in at your age, to make that decision to let go of that mindset and grow with knowing I'm going to go do this, but I'm also going to take care of myself mentally and emotionally. That's a big thing, and kudos to you. And, you know, I look forward to going forward, cheering from you. And like I said, if you ever need anything from me, we'll be in touch. And next time I come to Vegas, I might come over there and train with you guys. And you know, I look forward to you having a very prosperous career.
Sounds good. And also, I'm thinking about coming to Texas to
Let's go.
RDA and eat some of that Texas food.
Man, we got to take you. We got to take you. Me and Hoffa, when I had him on the podcast last month, we talked about a place called Terry Black's Barbecue. And he was talking about, in that episode, he was talking about how Johnny is really picky about barbecue. And he was saying it's funny because people have in their mind of Brazilian food or whatever. And he was saying how Brazilian barbecue is such a big thing that he's never had anything. So Johnny is high on. He said it's actually as good, if not better, than Brazilian barbecue. So we're going to take you to Terry Black's, and we would definitely, I'll link up with you. And we'll get you down there and get you some training in. And meanwhile, if you need anything from me, let me know. And we look forward to talking to you next time you get a dub or before. And you have a great rest of your day.
Sounds good. You guys too.
All right, brother.
Thank
take
you
it
for
easy.
coming on. Good luck.
Thanks.